Kathy Dillon, tried again and again to force her to open her eyes. It was he who in 1970, in Proximity Piece, tried to come as close as possible to a fellow art viewer without his target suspecting that anyone, let alone an artist, was only a hand's reach away. You would never say, would you, that these are the actions of a sensitive guy. Akanchi and the Senses retells the sweeping and passionate saga, or is it the anxious and pessimistic story of the ever closer relationship between the sensuous and the technological in modernity, and its consequences for how we see and how we know? What is the fate of the human sensorium under the onslaught of the multiple stimuli, inputs and sound bites, bits and pixels, flows, webs, nets that make up the information world? How, if at all, might a visual artist give such questions form? All this, and in only 3 acts, each built around a major character who has actively shaped the development of this drama, a character, moreover, who in Akanchi and the Senses is playing himself. Act 1, Prologue, Marshall McLuhan, author, guru, phrase maker, social prognosticator, Canadian. Described in 1967 by current biography as, and I quote, hurdling the disciplinary borders of literature, art, education, philosophy, and sociology to propose that many of the radical social changes of the technological 20th century can be attributed to the effects of electronic communications. Most of us by now would agree, close quote, by the way. But more than that, McLuhan asked what these changes mean for those who pick up the signal, communications targets, I mean. As our bodies bounce, like his, across screen and monitor, is there a price to be paid? McLuhan found it hard to make up his mind. Act 2. Vito Akanchi, our hero and star. Poet, performer, architect, intellectual omnivore. Once penned the line, call me Ishmael, call me Vito Akanchi. But this literary sally, it's a redoing, a paraphrase of Herman Melville, and Melville is still one of his favorite authors. This literary effort shouldn't be taken to say that his multiple manipulations of his body and performance concern some purely personal quest, which is not to deny that he did his own performing, but viewers may find themselves, as our plot unfolds, experiencing these performances as tragicomic assaults on the senses as distinct from the self. Act 3, Epilogue. Olafur Eliasson, sculptor, photographer, entrepreneur, polymath, wizard, though he has less Merlin in him than he does Frank Baum's elusive Wizard of Oz. Capable of dreaming up and seeing through enormous experiments, whether inside a museum or out in the open air. Makes no secret of his interest in taking the viewer as his subject/guinea pig, wherever his experiments occur. This is an artist who has designs on your eyes. For Eliasson, the sense that matters the most is sight. And we'll end by saying that for Akanchi, the opposite is true. But with this introduction, the curtain goes up. When McLuhan published Understanding Media in 1964, it really did seem to many, as its cover graphics insist, that he had turned on a light. This is because the book is not merely a study of media of communication. It concerns the whole spectrum of technological innovation, what McLuhan called the extensions of man, and Freud, in a famous passage, termed his auxiliary organs. This is the source of the phrase prosthetic God. McLuhan argues, as he put it in the preface of Understanding Media, that, and I quote McLuhan, as I will continue to do in our prologue, that, quote, any technology gradually creates a whole new human environment, unquote. Simple enough. Which is to say, though, that what the book offers in outline is nothing less than a technologically based theory of social transformation in the West. That's pretty sweeping, right? And I mean you to take that to heart. But what really distinguishes Understanding Media from McLuhan's later high-style pronouncements on media, e.g. the sort of Brave New World, media are fun and sexy kind of massaging of his message, which he did in 1967, The Medium is the Massage. Now the book is on the screen. What distinguishes Understanding Media is the far-reaching relation it draws between technology and the senses. What he argues here goes further than a mere inventory of social effects. New media, we learn, impact the body at its core, waging a wholesale sensory assault. The argument holds that new media utterly rewrite the body by obliterating its sensory pasts. As Understanding Media puts it, and again I quote, the effects of technology do not occur at the level of opinions or concepts, but alter sense ratios or patterns of perception steadily and without any resistance, end quote. We'll hear more about sense ratios in just a minute. Technology, in other words, impacts the body effortlessly, the way water fills an empty vessel, or electricity powers an inert machine. Or maybe the body should be thought of as a black box, something like the empty outline in James Burns' 1975 scale drawing. This is now an unknown work of art. It comes from the first anthology on video art published in 1976. And it images the body pretty much as McLuhan thinks of it, only enfleshed, having flesh and feeling when it appears on the television screen. The rest of it, mere outline, coming into being, mediated, and only then. Even at the moment, though, when McLuhan was writing, the black box sensorium had nothing to do with contemporary theories of perception. It still doesn't. But as a professor of English, rather than a scientifically disciplined student of perception, McLuhan seems to have been prepared to leave the issue of the real workings of the human sensorium to one side. When McLuhan speaks of sense ratios, he's imagining a process that adjusts and readjusts the relationship among our senses, the patterns of perception to which technology dictates our faculties conform. The advent of an oral medium to which we listen, radio, for example, makes its impact felt in the painful adjustment we must make to our visual faculties, while photography strikes its blow where, not at how we see, but at how we hear, so that innovation causes a constant readjustment in the composite of the senses. I said photography strikes